am Dr. Mrs. Wag from KTHM College Nasik, and I am teaching you the subject statistics, in which the first paper is descriptive statistics. Up till now, we have discussed how to collect data. A data in its original form is called as raw data. The data which is in raw form or in original form, we cannot have valid conclusions about any problem which we are going to discuss, and therefore that particular type of data should be classified according to their prominent characteristics. So we have three types of classification. The first one is the set of individual observations, in which there is actually no classification. The values which are measured, which we have counted, are written as it is your individual observations. Further, if we have a discrete type of data, that means a variable is taking some isolated values, say for example 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. In that case, we can have a discrete frequency distribution, in which the classes are generally of isolated numbers. Okay, and when the data is obtained by the process of measurement, then we have another type of classification which we call it as continuous frequency distribution. And in continuous frequency distribution, we have classes, our class intervals, and corresponding number of observations in that particular class is called as class frequency. Once we have a classified data, the another step is to present the data in a graphical format. So the graphs may be either in the format of diagrams such as pie diagram, bar diagram, multiple bar diagram, or percentage bar diagram, subdivided bar diagrams, or you can show the information in a numerical form in terms of graphs. So the graphs may be bar graph or frequency curve, frequency polygon, or we may have histogram or Ogilvy curve. Ogilvy curve means cumulative frequency curve. So these graphs and diagrams are very important while representing your data. The graphs are easily legible to common man, and the graph shows the prominent features of your data. Further, it can show what are the similar things in your data or the things which are far away from each other. So whether the data is homogeneous, heterogeneous, or it has certain shape and size and center, everything can be judged through well drawn diagrams. Okay, so graphs and diagrams are very important in statistics in order to show your raw data or your data, and in which these graphs also helps in drawing certain conclusions about your problem. Okay, now here we will discuss some of the graphs. So the first and most important function of graphs and diagrams is it interprets and evaluates data in tables and graphs. Further, we can have a labeled graphs by hand or with the help of computers. See, nowadays computers are available to in any institute, and you can draw any type of chart and diagram using MS Excel or using R software or using SPSS, and there are many more softwares available in market to draw graphs and diagrams with the help of your raw data. I have taken one example. So this is suppose a pie chart. This pie chart is a circle. What do you mean by pi? See, pi is a Greek letter, and all of us know pi from 7th standard. So pi is actually related to the concept of circle. So pie chart means divide the circle into certain components, and these components or sectors are according to their percentage in the data set. So these are we know that there is the total angle at the center of this any circle is 360. So the things which we want to divide, we have to divide in terms of 360, and in this way we can show pie chart. Similarly, the other type of graph we are using in our day-to-day life is bar chart, and this is a bar chart which is of either vertical form or it is in a horizontal form. If for example, if number of books sell in a certain departmental store, say in the month of January, February, March, April, and so on, and then this particular type of number of books sell can be written like this. So in January, suppose there are 20,000 or 200 books are sold. In February there are 100 books sold, like this. So such type of diagram is called as vertical bar diagram, and then the same thing you can write it in a horizontal way. The another and most important type of graph is, this is actually your frequency polygon. Frequency polygon means on x-axis you write down number of magazines sold in a particular department store, and suppose these are the number of days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, these are the days, and here the points are showing number of magazines sold in these particular days. Okay. So a graph in which points on the line between the plotted points also have meaning, and sometimes this is the best fit graph. That means from this line diagram we can actually have a conclusion about what type of characteristic or what type of graph is there. Is there any good exponential fit or geometric fit, or is the distribution is normal or something like that. So looking at the graph of any raw data, you can have a valid conclusion about the shape and you can say dispersion as well as the center of data set. Okay. So in this way you can judge the graph. So graph has actually graph can be interpreted in various ways, and one of the important thing for statisticians is one can have the shape of frequency distribution, and from that you can have an idea about which type of probability distribution can be fitted to the given problem situation. Now this is the graph of heating time and here water temperature. So heating time and water temperature up to 100 degrees Celsius is, after 100 degrees Celsius this particular graph will be constant at 100 degree. Okay. So this is the graph, and this graph is actually line graph, and you can see there is a perfect relationship between heating time and water temperature. Now this is again one type of data, that is this is the temperature in two towns in the month of May, June, July, August, September. Then this is, suppose this is average temperature. Then this type of graph can be shown with the help of line graph. So there are two lines. On x-axis you can take temperature. On x-axis you can take month May, June, July, August, September time on x-axis, and temperature on y-axis. So you will have two graphs simultaneously, and by looking at the graph you will definitely say that there is what is the relationship between temperature in two towns, or is there any constant difference between the temperatures, and such type of things can be judged through the graph. So one of the important graph which we have discussed earlier also, which is called as histogram. So what is histogram? Histogram is a series of rectangles, adjacent rectangles. That means there is no gap between the two rectangles. It is a series of adjacent rectangles erected on class intervals, and such that height of the rectangle is proportional to frequency of that class. So this is called as histogram. So histogram is again very important in order to see the center of your data set, spread of your data set, and shape of your data. So, histogram is very important from this point of view. For example, if we have a data which is not continuous, that for example, if we have inclusive method of classification, that is, if I have data of this type, 9 to say, if my data is like this, say 11 to 20, then 21 to 30, 31 to 40, like that. That means there is a gap between upper limit of one class and lower limit of other class. Then in that case, one has to find out class boundaries first, and by tracing the class boundaries, you draw a histogram. You cannot draw a histogram when your classes are not continuous. So this particular care should be taken by the students, that when your classification is of inclusive method of classification, that means if upper and lower limit are included in the class, then one has to make the data continuous by taking class boundaries. And how you obtain class boundaries? You just subtract 0.5 from the lower limit and add 0.5 to the upper limit. When you subtract 0.5 from lower limit and add 0.5 to the upper limit, your classes will be continuous, and those classes are called, those limits are called as class boundaries. So on x-axis you take class boundaries, on y-axis you take class frequency, and accordingly you draw rectangles on the particular class such that height of the rectangle is proportional to frequency of the distribution. Further, if your classes are of unequal class width, for example, if your first class is say 35 to 45, second class is say 45 to 55, and suppose third class is 55 to 70. That means if your class widths are changing, then you have to compute frequency density. So frequency density is obtained by dividing your actual class frequencies by length of the class interval. What is length of the class interval? Length of the class interval is denoted by h, which is difference between upper class limit and lower class limit of that class. Okay. So when you have unequal class widths for frequency distribution, then in that case, instead of taking only frequencies, one has to consider frequency densities on y-axis. And what is frequency density? Frequency density is frequency of the class divided by length of the class interval. So, what are the parts of histogram? The title. So, one has to write a proper title which gives the information about your data and for which particular type of variable you are drawing the histogram. You have to note that there. Also, one has to write down your scale. What are the scales you are using on x-axis? What are the scales you are using on y-axis that you have to show in the graph. Further, on x-axis, we are generally consider the place or time. Such things you are taking on temperature. So those things are the variables which are independent are taken on x-axis, and dependent variable is generally taken on y-axis. Further, the height of the bars is proportional to either frequency or frequency density, and generally we are writing bars as a rectangles. So now suppose this is another example. This is the example is showing monthly rent, house rent of certain families, and here we have number of families. So suppose the monthly rent of a family is in between 100 to 300. We observed 6 such families, and here this is monthly rent families in rupees, and number of families are written here. So here x is your variable which we call it as monthly house rent, and your number of families is denoted by F. Okay, so how to obtain cumulative frequency? So cumulative frequencies are nothing but the frequencies which are of additive type. So to cumulate means to add. Here, if I ask question to myself, how many observations are there having value less than 300? So there are 6 observations having value less than 300. How many observations are there having value less than 500? So there are total 6 plus 16, that is 22 observations are there having value less than 500. How many observations are there having value less than 700? That means they are 6 plus 16 plus 24. So this is 24 plus 22, that is 46. So in this way you can compute less than type cumulative frequencies. Now we can draw cumulative curves. Since there are 2 types of cumulative frequencies, we can have 2 types of cumulative frequency curves, which are also known as Ogive curve. So here, in order to draw less than type of Ogive curve, less than type of cumulative frequency curve, what we do? We plot less than type cumulative frequencies with upper class limit, because these observations or these frequencies are obtained by considering upper class limit. Okay, so while less than type of cumulative frequencies are plotted with upper class limit, we will have less than type Ogive. Similarly, when I ask question to myself that how many observations more than 100, how many observations more than 300, how many observations more than 500, how many observations more than 1100. So here we are obtaining frequencies such that they are more than lower class limit. So there are 4 observations having value more than 1100. So this is the last class frequency. Now if I ask question to myself that how many observations are there having value more than 900, it will be this 10 plus this 4, that is equal to 14. Similarly, number of observations having value more than 700 will be 4 plus 14 or 4 plus 10 plus 20. So 14 plus 20, that is equal to 34. How many observations are there having value more than 500? It is 4 plus 10 plus 20 plus 24, that is 34 plus 24, that is 58. And all observations are more than 100. Therefore, there are 80 observations having value more than 100. Okay. So in this way, we can compute more than type cumulative frequencies. Now, these more than type of cumulative frequencies are actually computed with respect to lower class limit. Therefore, we plot more than type cumulative frequencies with lower class limit. Okay, more than type of cumulative frequencies with lower class limit. So in this way, one can obtain less than Ogive and more than Ogive. So here you can see that lower class limits are plotted with more than type cumulative frequency, and the graph is like this. So here you can see that this 100 is plotted with 80. Okay, can you see here this particular point is 180. Okay, this particular point is 374. This particular point is 554. This particular point is 734. So the graph is like this. So graph is in a downward direction. Can you see the frequencies are decreasing, and therefore the graph is in downward direction. Similarly, the another type of Ogive, which we call it as less than type of Ogive, is obtained using upper class limit and less than type cumulative frequency. So on x-axis we have upper class limits, and on y-axis we have less than type cumulative frequencies, and here each and every data point is written. Okay, so this is called as less than Ogive, which is of S shape. So this particular curve is also called as sigmoid curve, and this is more than type ogive curve. You can draw these two curves in a single chart also, because when you draw this particular diagram here, the ogive curve will be of X shape. Okay, the ogive curve will be of X shape. So in this way you can find out, you draw less than type as well as more than type of ogive curves. Okay. Now another type of curve is our frequency polygon. So frequency polygon is obtained with the help of midpoint of the class interval and class frequency. So here, what is the midpoint of the class? 100 to 300. Midpoint of the class is denoted by sum of upper class limit plus lower class limit divided by 2. So it is a simple average of upper class limit and lower class limit, or two class limits. So in this way you can compute midpoint of the class interval, and on the other side, or on the x-axis, you take class frequency and you join these points with the help of line segments. These two additional points I have added here, this particular line and this particular line, in order to close this particular polygon. So this particular diagram is called as frequency polygon. What do you mean by polygon? Poly means many, gon means side. Polygon means having many sides. So this is frequency polygon, where each and every point is joined with the help of line segment in a consecutive manner. That means from 0 to 200, from 200 to 300, from 300 to 500. So these are the line segments which we have joined with the help of line segment in a proper manner, and therefore this is called as frequency polygon. If you join these points with the help of smooth freehand curve, if you join these points with the smooth freehand curve, it is called as frequency curve. See, this is frequency polygon and this is frequency curve. The points are same. Here the points are joined with the help of small line segments, straight line segments, and this is your free hand curve, which and the points are joined in a consecutive manner, one by one. Then this is called as frequency curve. In this way you can have frequency polygon, frequency curve, histogram, then less than type of cumulative curve and more than type of cumulative curve. Okay. Now we will come to second type of diagram, which is called as stem and leaf diagram. So stem and leaf diagram, this particular concept is new to you. Actually, what is it? So stem and leaf chart is just like histogram, but it is drawn in another way. Consider this example. The following are the marks obtained by 40 students in a class. Say these are the observations. Now construct the stem and leaf chart. Also determine which stem has maximum leaves. Students, remember that here we have 2-digit numbers, isn't it? 31, 37, 2, 41, 12, etc. So in this case, we will consider what is the range of your data set. Here you can see that maximum observation is 50 here, maximum observation is 50 and minimum observation is 2. Okay. So here, since these are all 2-digit numbers, we will consider first the observation which is in a, or the number which is in a tens place. So here the numbers in the tens place are 3, 0, 4, 1, 3, 2, 5, maximum is 5, 4, something like that. So these are called as stems. Okay. So my stems are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The numbers at the tens place. Now the numbers at the unit place are either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So these are called as leaves. The numbers at the tens place are called as stems. Numbers at the unit place are called as leaves. Okay. So here what we do, first we write down the stems 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Okay. Now, what is my first observation? My first observation is 31. So, it belongs to this particular class. So, my first observation I will write 3 as it is. Here, my first observation is 31. So, 1 I have written here. What is my second observation? 37. So, again the 37 observation is noted here, 37. What is my third observation? Third observation is 2. So, it is 0, 2. Okay. What is my fourth observation? 41. So, it is 44, 1, 41. Like this. So, I'll write all the 40 observations in this way. So, the number at the tens place is called as stem here, and number at the unit place is called as leaf. So, in this way we write down all the numbers which exist at the unit place in this way. Now, in this case we can see that these numbers one has to arrange in a increasing order of magnitude. So, this is my step 1 to draw stem and leaf chart, and then these numbers I will arrange in an increasing order of magnitude. So, my first set 2, 9, 8, I will write it as 2, 8, 9. Here, observation 2 appears for 2 times. So, it is 2, 2, 3, 5, 5, 7, 7, 9. And the last observation is 5, 0. It kept as it is. So, in this way, we can draw stem and leaf chart. So, stem and leaf chart is just like histogram. Now, can you see? This particular graph look like our bar graph in a horizontal manner, but this stem and leaf chart is just like histogram. It also shows what is the center of the distribution, what is the spread of the observations, what is the shape of your data set or frequency distribution. That can be easily seen through this particular graph. So, there are too much similarities between histogram and your stem and leaf chart. But what is the difference? This particular graph, stem and leaf chart, is superior to your histogram because in histogram we write the frequencies. And what is frequency? Frequencies is number of observations in the class interval. So, that we have actually, we just accumulate the things. So, observation 31 is recorded as 35, observation 39 is also recorded as 35 in case of histogram, but in stem and leaf chart, we don't lose any of the information. Each and every observation is with me. So, this is most important thing with respect to this stem and leaf chart. In stem and leaf chart, we don't lose any information about our original data set. So, my original data set, whatever I have here, is same as here, and we can definitely read these observations in this way. So, this is the stem and leaf chart. The description for stem and leaf chart is given here. You write down this particular description in your notebook, and actually one has to write this whole lecture in your notebook also. This is very important topic from examination point of view. Now, the next point we are going to discuss is data analysis and interpretation. So, when we are collecting data, that data can be shown in the form of text, in the form of tables, in the form of classified data, in the form of graphs, diagrams, pictures, etc. So, we need to study such type of data to understand the phenomena. That is a problem which are actually we have taken for interpretation. Nowadays, companies' annual reports, newspapers include several types of data along with textual manner. Now, students, you must have familiar with the graphs which we are now looking in the on the TV screen, looking in the magazines, looking in newspaper about your COVID data. So, how many COVID patients are found? How many of them have been get rid of that particular COVID disease? How many deaths occurred in a particular town or city? So daily we have lots of data, and that data should be given in the form of tables and graphs so that we can understand what is the trend going on. So all of us are familiar with now such type of data. So data interpretation means comprehend the data and answer the questions based on it. Such questions are included in various competitive examinations, and therefore we will have certain types of questions which we are going to discuss in this particular video lecture. So some of the questions I will discuss here, and rest of the questions I will give you in Google Meet in order to understand more about this particular topic. So suppose following multiple bar diagram represents GDP, that is gross domestic product of our country obtained by the government, and this is one of the say economists, Arvind Subramanian, and source is from Times of India. So this is actual data, and here he has estimated GDP for the year 2011 to 12 to 2016 and 17. So actually this is the data. See, the first one is government data and second one is the data which is given by Arvind. Okay. So actually there is a shade in this particular diagram, but anyhow we cannot see it in proper way. So the first particular bar is for government and second bar is for Arvind. So this is the data which is appeared in Times of India. What is the question? In which year GDP is lowest by government method and by Arvind's method? So in the year, can you see here the data is given 6.6, 5.3, 6.4, 7.4, 8.2 and 7.4. So in the year 2012-13 the GDP is lowest by government's estimate, and according to Arvind's estimate in the year 2013 GDP is lowest. Okay, so by both methods, by government estimate and by Arvind's method, in the year 2012-13 GDP is lowest. Okay, so this can be seen from this graph. What is the next question? In which year GDP is highest by government method and by Arvind's method? Now here the first diagram shows government's estimate and second bar shows Arvind's estimate. So in this case the highest GDP is in the year 15-16 by government method, and by Arvind's method the highest GDP is in the year 15-16 only because the value is 5.7. Similarly, does Arvind's method uniformly overestimate or underestimate? Underestimate. It should be underestimate GDP. So Arvind's method always underestimates the GDP because government figures are always large as compared to Arvind's method. Find the yearly deviation Arvind's method from government method. So how you compute the deviation? Deviation means difference between these two. So it is 6.6 minus 4.1, 5.3 minus 3, 5.4 minus 3.9, 7.4 minus 4.9. So on x-axis you take financial error and on y-axis you take deviation. So you can draw the graph of yearly deviation from Arvind's and government's method. So on x-axis you take the year, that is time period, and on y-axis you show your deviation, yearly deviation. Now what is the average deviation? Overestimates or underestimates by Arvind. So it is always underestimating the GDP. So you just take sum of the differences, positive differences for these 6 years and divided by 6. That will be the average deviation. So this is your exercise for this particular problem. Okay. Now the next type of you can say example is, following are the diagrams about sex ratio at birth appeared in Sunday Times on the day 23rd June 2019. Answer the questions based on the diagrams. Note that what is sex ratio? sex ratio is number of females per 1000 males. For example, if in a say Nasik city there are total 1900 births. In 1900 births, suppose total number of females are 900 and total number of males are 1000, then sex ratio for Nasik district is 900. So sex ratio is nothing but total number of females per 1000 males. So in this case, all India sex ratio at birth, which is also called as SRB, sex ratio at birth, SRB, and it is given below. So from the year 2015-16, then 16-17, 17-18, 18-19, for these 4 years sex ratio is given like this. So can you see the sex ratio is gradually increasing. Why it is so? Because of, you can say, we are communicating people, we are convincing the people that you should welcome to the girls or the female infanticide should be banned, and in this way, because of changing mindset of people, also the steps taken by the government, this particular sex ratio is increasing. So in the year 2015-16, there are 923 female births as compared to 1000 male births, and in this way actually this is a sex ratio which is less as compared to the next years, and therefore this is a good sign that we are balancing our sex ratio at birth. These are the second you can say second type of data is given here. In Kerala the sex ratio is 950, in Chhattisgarh it is 950, in Mizoram it is 956, in Goa it is 954, in Andhra Pradesh it is 953, in Madhya Pradesh, in Meghalaya it is 951. Okay, in this way I will take it somewhat large. Okay, so here you can see in Kerala and Chhattisgarh the sex ratio is maximum, that is 959. And these are some sex ratios in Arunachal Pradesh, Haryana, Chandigarh, Punjab, Lakshadweep, Diu and Daman, where these are the lowest sex ratio, these are the highest sex ratio, and here also this is comparison, that is comparison of sex ratio at birth during the period 2015 to 2019. So this is the difference. This difference is taken from our census analysis, and this is real data. So by reading all these diagrams, what is the nature of SRB overall India? So what is the nature of sex ratio at birth in India? So the trend is increasing. I have given answers also here. The sex ratio is increasing. Name the states having topmost SRB during the year 1819. So these are Kerala and Chhattisgarh. Name the state having lowest sex ratio birth during the period 1819. So they are Diu, Daman, and such type of questions you can answer using your graphs and diagrams. So this is also your exercise. The next type of question is that Sunday Times on 23rd June 19 give the following data collected in May 19. Highlights of survey results are increasing number of patients with diabetes is found in low socio-economic strata. The cost of diabetics care in India in the year 2017 is estimated to rupees 63,000 crores with 72.9 million diabetic cases. 80% patients are not getting recommended treatment. Till few years ago, diabetic was found among people with age above 40, but now the number of cases above age 20 are also reported. 60% bypass surgeries patients with diabetics in a metro cities, and 40% people above age 60 are diabetic. So such type of data is this is actual data from survey. We have discussed the surveys are conducted by NSS, National Sample Survey, or there are special surveys for say medical industry. There are special survey for such pandemics as like your corona disease and like that. So such type of data is collected throughout India at a certain time period, and that data was analyzed in order to you can say plan for the future for government. So such type of surveys are always give a right figure and the phenomena which is going in the society. So here also it is given that in India, Diabetic Care Index report said 3 cross cases of uncontrolled diabetes patients suffer from complications of heart, kidney, nerve and limb. Now this is again one of the medical term, you search for it. HbA1c is a blood test report which shows average blood sugar level for last 3 months in your blood. So this is if HbA1c is greater than 6.5, then the person is considered as diabetic. So this is data in which these are the problems suffered by patients, and this is reduction of HbA1c 1% reduces the problem. So such type of suppose data is given to you. This is the map of India. Different metropolitan cities are given, and here percentage. So this is HbA1c level among the diabetic patients in major Indian cities during 1 year period. This is given to you. These are the things which we have given in the data. So this is name of the disease or disease related with eye, kidney, nerve, heart, limb, and these are the on x-axis these are the percentage of cases. Percentage of cases during the year. So you can write such type of questions. See, such type of questions are generally asked in any type of competitive exam. Remember, in MPSC and UPSC, there is always 2 or 3 problems which are based on analysis of data using graphs and diagrams. So actually these problems are taken from competitive exam question papers only, and you will definitely understand the things if you think it properly and interpret the results. So these are the answers I have given. You just watch these graphs carefully and read these graphs carefully and try to write the questions of this type, and answers are for your reference. Suppose one more question is there, I have discussed here. Air passenger traffic in India is shown, and what type of graph you can fit here. So this is the exponential type of growth. All of a sudden the number of passengers are increasing from the year 2000 up to 2020. There are maximum passengers. In this year, because of pandemic situation, this particular thing will be again have a drop. So such type of analysis you can do using these graphs, and these problems I will discuss in your Google class also. So you try to solve all these problems, and then if you have any difficulty, we will discuss it in your Google class. I will share these notes in Google class also. So I think this is enough for today, and we have discussed all the graphs and diagrams and how to interpret the graphs and diagrams which are related with subtle phenomena and how to interpret the results. So, in this way, now we conclude this lecture and we will stop here. In the next lecture, now we will going to discuss measures of central tendency. That means how to find center of your data set. And that center is called as measures of central tendency. In that case, we will discuss mean, median, mode, geometric mean, harmonic mean, weighted mean, etc. So today I will stop here. Thank you all of you.